Yo, what's up? Kavi here from Race Studios, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Rockstar 27mm f2.8. So it comes in this very small red box, and of course inside we're gonna have an instruction manual that it comes in English and Chinese. We have the lens wrapped in this plastic bag so to protect it from moist and dust, and as you can see the lens is looking really nice. It's all metal with a plastic cap, and you can see this is tiny. This is pancake territory. We have a 55mm filtered thread at the front, and we also have a metal mount. This is not plastic, this is fully metal. The focus ring turns quite a bit, and I like the feeling of the focus ring. There is no aperture ring. This is a fixed f2.8, and you can see that it looks very small when mounted onto my Sony a6400. This lens, it is fully manual, which means you have to dial the focus yourself. And as you can see, let me see if I can show you, right there, the focus is pretty long, which might be good for beginners, also good for filmmakers. There is no aperture ring, but that's because it's a fixed aperture. It's only f2.8, you cannot change that. This lens in particular is a Sony E-mount, but I believe this will come available in Fuji X and Canon EOS M, and pretty much all Micro Four Thirds sensor cameras. So it will not be compatible with DSLR and full frame cameras. As you can see, this is tiny, and I believe it's probably a pancake lens or somewhere about a pancake lens, and maybe the most attractive thing about this lens is the price. Here in China it's only 300 RMB. I believe by the time it hit the American market it's going to be somewhere around $50 or $60. So for a prime lens, that's quite impressive, especially a lens that is all metal. I gotta say, the image quality is not bad. I mean, at this price point, anything is gonna be good because, come on, it's so affordable. But surprisingly, I really like the image that I took with this lens. First thing that surprised me is the quality of the images in general. I mean, they do have a bit of character. It's like some vintage lenses that they have a bit of a warm tone to it, and I really like some of the portraits that I got with this camera. 27mm is equivalent to 35mm, more or less equivalent to a 35mm full frame camera. So that's a focal range that I really love, and I'm very familiar with because my favorite lens of all time is the Canon 35mm f1.8 RF that I have on my Canon EOS R6, which is actually shooting this video. So I'm very familiar with that focal lens. And I gotta say, even so it's a bit wide and the aperture is also a bit wide, you could get some depth of field, some shallow depth of field, and the bokeh, even so it's not very strong, the quality of that bokeh, the way it renders, is actually very good. It's very impressive. The sharpness is also quite good, and there isn't much distortion to talk about. So far, so good. Now, let's start talking about what is not so great. So first, the transmission. This lens, even so it's f2.8, I believe the transmission is a lot higher, like an f3.5. So it's a bit darker than what it's supposed to be. So basically the difference between f-stop and t-stops, the f-stop will determine more or less the bokeh, the shallow depth of field, while the t-stops, the transmission, determine the amount of light that hit the back of the sensor. And yeah, that can vary lens to lens. Some lenses have like the f-stops and the t-stops almost the same, but other lenses, usually cheaper lenses, there's a big variation on that, and the transmission tends to be a lot higher or lower depending how you look at it. And yeah, this transmission, I can tell you, I can assure you, is not f2.8 or T2.8, it's more like a T3.5 at best. So it's a bit darker. If you're gonna be shooting pictures at night, maybe not a great lens, but still it beats the kit lens on the Sony cameras. Another thing that there is no way around it is the vignetting. The vignetting is kind of catastrophic. It's just like the corners are so dark. So it probably is not properly covering the entire sensor of the APS-C camera that I have here, the Sony a6400. I believe with Micro Four Thirds cameras it will perform a lot better when it comes to to vignetting, but I gotta say, the vignetting here is pretty bad. You'll have to correct later in post-production. So I guess for video, I don't know. There's some people who like vignetting, and you can still correct that even on video. It's gonna be more difficult. In Lightroom, I guess you can correct it as well, but keep in mind that because this is a lens that is not popular, it's not from any brand, and it's fully manual, the camera won't detect it, so it won't automatically correct. So unless you are into you know how to use Lightroom, Photoshop, or Premiere, or stuff like that, you're gonna have to eat that vignetting. But like I say, sometimes vignetting can look so nice, depending what you're doing. But generally speaking, I like the quality of the images. It's quite sharp, especially in the center. It's actually very sharp. It's just on the very edges of the corners where it starts to drop on sharpness, but still, like I say, it definitely beats the kit lens. If we're gonna compare this kind of more like apples to apples in a way, let's compare it to something like the 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8 that doesn't cost all that much more. And I gotta say that the 7 Artisans will absolutely destroy this lens on pretty much everything. Maybe there is one or two things that I like about this lens that maybe can compete. Is like the character of this lens, I really like it. And also the bokeh, the renders really nicely. But anything else, if you wanna put a little bit more money and get something like the 7 Artisans 25 1.8, you're gonna get a better lens, even so it's gonna be maybe double the price, I think. I'm not sure how much is now the 7 Artisans f1.8. But yeah, this is an interesting lens, especially looks really nice, very, very small, and very affordable. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like this video, share with your friends. Drop me a comment down below what you think about this lens. Will you buy this, or the 7 Artisans, or the Brighton Star? There are quite a few options there at 25mm and around that 35 also as well, if you want something a little bit tighter of a focal range. But anyway, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I'll catch you up on the next video.